All right, welcome, guys. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to take their brands to the next level. I am your host, Junior Frederick, and I have with me, of course, Mr. Bobby Stealth. And we have a phenomenal show for you today on this Friday. If you are tuned in live, go ahead and put your flames in the chat. And of course, let us know where you're from. Phenomenal Friday, Bobby. What's up?
What's going on, Junior? What's going on, man? I am feeling absolutely phenomenal today. And I think we should probably start doing Finance Fridays. I had a call with the community last night. Now, I'm not saying we're gonna slap the table on this, guys. I'm just saying it was a good conversation. And when we talked, they were saying we're so glad to be here right now in this class because no one is talking about finance in business at the level that you're talking about it right now. And it blew their minds. So I'm feeling amazing because I know today's show is going to be something that you guys aren't hearing enough about. I know it's going to be a show where if you pay attention and you take notes, you're going to walk away from this feeling very empowered, very secure in the decisions that you've made and some of the investments that you've made that are looking kind of shaky right now. So my goal is really to help empower you guys today. And Junior, I'm sure, is going to have some excellent questions on perspective when it comes to money, debt, finance, and all that good jazz. So I'm feeling phenomenal, Junior. Very excited, and I'm looking forward to sharing some insights today. How about you? How you feeling?
I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good. I feel like today's one of those days where you just sort of have to be open to whatever comes. So a couple questions I've been asking myself very recently is two questions. Number one, where is the opportunity? And number two, how can I take it? That's it. Where is the opportunity? How can I take it? If you start to ask yourself these questions, like as you're going throughout your day, you start to see a lot more opportunities showing up. So that's just sort of how I am, Bobby. Apart from that, I mean, I'm good. I'm ready.
Hmm. Okay, so guys, I want to talk to you all about good and bad debt. There is a difference. There is good debt and there's bad debt. Now, good debt is debt that you incur in order to produce cash. Okay? You purchase it, you purchase assets with this debt, and then you leverage the assets that you purchase to generate cash. Good debt. Bad debt. Bad debt is debt that you use to purchase liabilities. Okay? So, a liability is an expense of almost any kind. So, let's say I went and bought a Rolex watch. Now, this Rolex watch could be looked at as a liability or an asset. That debt could be good debt or bad debt. And this is what confuses a lot of people. Like they don't know when they're spending money the right way. So let's say I bought a Rolex watch and I am a rapper. If a rapper buys a Rolex watch, many of you all might think that that person just spent money in a bad way. But the truth is, they just made a really good investment. And I'll tell you why. But if you are not a rapper and your profession is not to go on stage, look glamorous, and show that you have more money than you actually do, like if that's not your job, and you went to buy a Rolex for show to feel good about yourself, just to walk around with a Rolex on your arm for status, so to speak, then that might not be a good investment. It might be bad debt because status doesn't produce cash. It makes you feel good about yourself. It makes you look good in front of other people, but it's not necessarily an asset. So, as we dive deep into these things, I'm going to break down this example and then I'm going to open the floor up for some questions, some insights, and just we're going to talk about how money really works and why people should not be afraid of debt and when you actually should be afraid of debt. So, let's say I'm the guy that works at Walmart. I want to feel good about myself. And I take out a loan, I take out some debt, credit card, and I go buy a $20,000 watch. This $20,000 watch makes me feel good about myself. It is a 1,000% liability because that me feeling good about myself in working at Walmart is probably not going to produce any more money for me. However, if I am a rapper and I am on stage and I go and take out $100,000 loan, so to speak, and I've got all of this cash coming in from my advances, and I wear this Rolex watch to show that, to elevate my status in the mind of my prospect and client so that they spend more money, come out and buy more of my merchandise. Well, the Rolex watch that I spent for $100,000, if 100 people see it, and each one of those 100 people that see it come to my shows, spend time with me, buy my music, and do all of the different things, each 100 of those people might just spend $2,000 to $3,000 with me in 1 year, and they might spend that money every year that I drop an album, or every 6 months that I do a tour. So that $100,000 Rolex that I put in front of my prospects to increase my status in their mind is actually an asset to the rapper and a liability to the guy that works at Walmart. So the thing that you have to understand about debt is that debt can be good and debt can be bad. And good debt is when you are purchasing assets with the intent to produce cash flow from the asset. Bad debt is when you purchase a liability without a plan for producing cash flow to recoup the original investment. So, Junior, do you have any insights, any questions, or thoughts on good debt versus bad debt before we move into the 4 ways money moves in a company, which is really what you got to understand to manage debt and financing responsibly?
Yeah, guys, it took me a little while to understand this concept. Um, Intuitively, I've always sort of understood it. And I'll give you an example. How many of you, put it in the chat, how many of you have played Monopoly? So how many of you have played that? Put it in the chat. Just put a number one. So Bobby, I've been playing it for a long time. I've never lost in my life. I've never lost one game my entire life. Undisputed champion in my family, right? And why haven't I lost? Well, because I understand good debt and bad debt. Now, obviously, that's just a game, and we have real life, we have bills and stuff like that. But literally the same, it's literally the same concept. You spend the money. So and check this out. One of my coaches said, you never say that you spend money. Like language is so important. Okay, when you spend, whatever you spend doesn't come back. So I tend to say that I circulate money. When you circulate money, your money comes back with friends. That's what you're looking for. So what Bobby's talking about, I agree with, and I mean that's literally how life is. You circulate money, you put out money, okay, and then the money comes back in the form of more money or in the form of value that then produces money. I think that's what Bobby refers to as good debt. And just let me know if I'm right or wrong. Now, I love economics. Economics is one of my favorite subjects at school. I never pursued it on the level that Bobby has. But that's the way I interpret it. I interpret it as, if I spend this money is gonna bring something back. Maybe not immediately, but in the very near future, or in the far future, right? Right in the distant future, that's gonna help me to either make more money or at least retain the money that I have. So, asset retains value, right? Right, Bobby? Asset
They
is
should,
anything that
should.
retains. Yeah, it should. Well, and a question I have for you. By the way, I love the rapper example because it just shows that everything is situational. Like you have to have situational awareness. One rapper, in fact, two rappers that I think do this very well, what you're talking about, is 50 Cent and, strangely enough, Rick Ross. Rick Ross does this very well. Rick Ross, I've been looking at what he's doing on social media, and I see he bought some animals. Like he bought some giraffes and all kinds of stuff. People thought he was crazy. Number one, he's very smart because he benefited from the attention. Okay, so he got free attention. Remember, he has a brand. Attention is the first thing you need to sell. So he has attention on his brand. But then you know what he did? He made a zoo. He literally made a zoo. He turned his backyard into like a zoo, and he charged people to come and see the animals that he bought. So he turned his purchase into an asset. Another thing he did, he bought like 100 cars. And people look like that. Isn't that stupid? Why you need 100 cars? And then he has one of the biggest car shows in Atlanta from the cars that he bought. And then he's benefiting from the attention, benefiting from the media, the ads, you know, the marketing, stuff like that. But he's also benefiting from people coming there, the connections that he makes because of the cars. Certain connections you could only get because of the car you have. If you have a Bugatti, you're automatically in a Bugatti club with other Bugatti owners that are multimillionaires. So there are many ways to turn an investment, like to turn like what Bobby calls the good debt, the bad debt into profit. You just have to be smart and sort of recognize the situation you're in. But yeah, I definitely understand that, man. I definitely understand that. So let's keep going. I'm gonna be breaking this down for the average person. So because you know Bobby's very smart, man. I'm gonna be trying to break this down for the average person. But let's keep going, Bobby.
Yeah. So one of the things that Branded Like a Leader does so well that I don't think a lot of people understand is that what Junior just said is very important. And in economics, we call it a time horizon. So a time horizon means how long it takes the investment to mature. Now, Branded Like a Leader, Coaching Like a Leader, and Closing Like a Leader, those three, like if you just needed something to think about, like to imagine, branding is going to teach you how to brand you and attract your ideal client. Coaching is going to help you get an offer so that you have something to give them. And then closing is going to help you collect the cash when it's time to close the deal. So just those three skills alone, you could run a profitable business or a business, right? So if you thought about it like that, like branding is for market, getting a market around you. Coaching is for the offer, having something to give them, and closing is for high ticket sales to be able to actually sell the thing at a high price and collect the cash. So let's say you had those three skills. Now, what a lot of individuals mess up on, this is the reason they have 15 coaches, 25 courses, and no results. Here's the thing: they do not understand time horizon. Time horizon means that if your investment doesn't mature by this time, it starts to work against you. So in finance, we say you want to borrow short, lend long. Okay, write that down. Borrow short, lend long. So if I'm borrowing money, I want to borrow money for the shortest amount of time. The reason I want to borrow money for the shortest amount of time is because I pay the least amount of interest on it if I do it in that way. The reason I want to lend money for the longest amount of time is because if I lend money for a long period of time, I get the most interest payments. So a mortgage is 30 years in the US. 60 years, 60-year mortgage, 30-year mortgage, 15-year mortgage. Like there are very few 60-year mortgages, but you get the idea. It's like a long time. And why they want to do that is because they want you paying interest on it for like 10 years before you even start getting to the principal. So you would pay 10 years in interest on a $30,000 mortgage or a 30-year mortgage. Now, with this concept, here's what a lot of business owners don't understand. And it's the reason why they go broke and they don't figure out why they can't get their business off the ground. Here's what's happening to them. They are taking out debt with an unrealistic time horizon. So a time horizon is the amount of time you expect the investment to mature. It takes most businesses 3 years to become profitable if they're small, like if they're on a small scale. This is average. The first year, you're going to be investing in operations primarily. So go ahead and write this down too. First year operations. I'm going to give you guys a very simple setup. This is common business structures. First year operational development. Second year market establishment. You have to establish yourself in the marketplace. Third year market dominance and efficiency. Efficiency. Now, how this looks in a regular business is like this. First year, I take on a lot of debt or I bootstrap in order to get operations going. I learn some things. I hire some VAs. I buy some courses. I get some online things like HubSpot, Kajabi, all the things I need to do operations. But I also have a steep learning curve and I don't have any customers. Okay. So I've got all of these expenses, but I don't necessarily have customers. So I'm marketing and I'm investing and I'm trying to generate a market. I'm what you call a new entrant. I'm trying to successfully enter the marketplace. That's where the first year goes. Normally, all that cash goes there. So most people think they're going to make money in the first year. They think they're going to have clients and customers in the first year, but you're usually not. You need to be prepared to ride the first year out and have straight money to cover operational expenses. So for example, if it takes you $1,000 a month to run your business, that's a very low overhead, then you need to have 12K cash that you can burn. Not that you can invest, not that you can burn. 1,000 a month that you can just set on fire. If you can't do that, then the likelihood of you succeeding in business in that first year is very low, very low. Now, you move into market establishment, establishing yourself in the marketplace. This is your second year in business. This is where you're spending an outrageous amount of money on what's called customer acquisition because you just don't know enough about the market. You're new to the market. You don't have brand equity and you are competing for space. So the customer acquisition cost of your business are higher than those of your competitors because you're new. So that is an expense that fluctuates as the business matures. So that's where all your money goes in the second year is actually getting customers to actually trust you. And then in the third year, you have some customers and you start to generate word of mouth. Word of mouth is what causes your customer acquisition cost to start to decline. And then you've got 3 years in your industry and you're known and you've been doing good business and you've got a few reviews. So now you've got testimonials and these testimonials drive your customer acquisition costs down. And then you start moving to efficiency because you've been delivering your service at said operational cost. But now that you're better at doing it, the operational cost should begin to fall. And now that these costs are falling in proportion to your supply of the service, the business is moving towards solvency. Now, the reason I gave you guys that entire breakdown is because most people think that they're going to make money in 6 months. They're delusional. They're absolutely delusional. Some people think they're going to make money in a year. It sounds good. Sounds really good. Some people even are convinced that they're going to make an investment and start turning money tomorrow. They say, I need a guarantee on my money. I need to make sure it's not going to fail. And I need you to ensure that I'm going to be able to make money 30 days from now. All of those are outside of time horizon logic. Time horizon logic says as a educated business owner, an entrepreneur, you know, and I'm going to turn it over to Junior here shortly because I'm going deep on this, but you guys really need to understand this. You know that it's going to take you time. Now let's talk about the debt piece as I turn it over to Junior. So when you take on debt, you have to do it in a strategic way. I tell people that I advise and consult, if you're in year one, you want to bootstrap. Rule of thumb. Bootstrap means use your own money. Get a job, get 2, 3 jobs, but use cash because you're not making revenue. You don't have sales. You don't have customers. You're not in the market. Do not borrow money if you're not established in the marketplace. It's not smart. Now, get a better job. I'm not saying don't invest. I'm saying don't borrow money to invest when you don't have a method for repayment. That's silly. So once you move to market establishment, once you start getting your first sales coming in, then you move to a line of credit. A line of credit is like a credit card. The reason we like lines of credit is because if we don't use the money, we don't have to pay on it. But if we use the money, we pay a small amount. We pay only on the interest. And let's say we get a line of credit for $10,000. Let's say we pay the minimum, we use $5,000 of that money. And we're paying a minimum payment of, let's say, $300 a month. That's reasonable. It's really not going to be that high depending on the interest rate you get it at. If you spend $5,000 on a line of credit, you're probably paying $100 a month on something like that. So the idea at this point is if I get a line of credit and I spend $5,000,
Hmm.
all right, it looks like we were frozen for a second.
Yeah,
Junior,
I
can
think
you?
you're back. I can hear
Okay,
you.
good.
Guys, can you hear us? Put a number one in the chat if you can. I'm not sure if I was frozen or if you were frozen.
I think we were both frozen. I didn't know it was 8:30 already. I'm giving you guys a clinic right now. My goodness. Okay, Junior. Junior, let me calm down real quick. Go ahead and bring together what we've said so far because I was going somewhere, but I don't want you guys to get lost. I really want you guys to understand. I really want you to understand.
Yeah, Bobby, I think let's go to our first break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. I wrote down two things that I think you said that were very important. I wrote down time horizon. I also wrote down the entrepreneur. So we're gonna touch on that when we come back, guys. Stay right here. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this short break.
I said Shaan Ride East. I'm proud. I said Shaan Ride East. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a zero behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes. Confidence is key. Most of the people I work with, they have the education, the experience, and the expertise. We call those the 3 E's. But they're looking for the 3 I's, the income, the impact, and the independence. And I always tell them that the bridge between the 3 E's and the 3 I's is marrying your confidence to your competence. Most of the people I work with, again, have all of the competence in the world. What I help them do is get the confidence.
Right, guys, welcome back. Put a number one in the chat if you could hear us clearly and if you could see us clearly. If nobody's freezing up, just let me know. And also, what has been the number one thing that you've taken away? I'm curious. Bobby, now let's continue with what you were saying. So you spoke about the time horizon. Um, how do I break down time horizon?
Yes, yes.
So the way I sort of look at time horizon, I look at time horizon as the amount of time it takes for my money to come back. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I think of it. And I think the gist of what Bobby's saying is people have to be okay with the money not coming back after 30 days. Like guys, if the money doesn't come back, okay, let's use brand because that's what we're talking about. Let's say somebody does a brand launch. Perfect example. Brand launch is costly. Okay. So you spend that money, 30 days later, you don't see a return. Okay. 60 days, okay, no return. Okay. But if in like a year, let's just say a year to exaggerate, but it's definitely going to be less than a year. But let's just use a year to exaggerate. If after a year you end up making your money back, like you end up making the same amount of money that you spent on the brand launch, everything after that is profit. Like for all of the years, like year one, year two, year three, year four, that's profit based on what based on the money that you spend. Now, Bobby, I'll sort of go back to let's go back to the game, the Monopoly game. One of the things I used to do, and the reason I used to beat everybody is because I noticed that when we used to play, everybody used to like sort of hold on to their money, right? They give you money to start the game with like, $2,000, something like that, some little number. Everybody used to try to hold on to the cash that they have. And they're like, I'm gonna save, I'm gonna save, I'm gonna save. So all of them will save us. Bro, as soon as I went around the board, I spent all the money I had. I bought one of everything. I was like, this, I'm buying this. I bought a railroad. I bought a property. I bought every kind of property I could buy. And you know what it gave me? And write this down. It gave me leverage. Write down leverage. Because here's the thing. I spent the money or I invested the money, but I didn't see a return on like the first goal, the second goal, the third goal, the fourth goal, the fifth goal. But here's what I always could bet on. When things got very tough in the game. So when you're like at the third quarter of the game, to the halfway to the third quarter, where everybody is now building homes and stuff like that, I could always count on somebody needing a property that I had so that they could build a hotel, or somebody, being down to their last $200 and landing on a railroad or something like that. So I spent the money, or I rather invested the money, I circulated the money, okay, knowing that it would come back in game time, maybe like an hour later. Like I was very conscious of that. Now, in real time, in what we're talking about, that money may come back in like a couple months, 5 months, 6 months. So you let's say Bradley launched a website. So let's say 5 months from now, Bradley goes to an event. He runs into somebody. He says, "Hey, check out my site." Person goes through Bradley's site. They love what he's doing. It looks professional, looks great. They say, "Bradley, can we hire you to speak?" Boom, Bradley makes out with like 10, 15, 20K. Was the investment worth it? Even if it took 6 months? Absolutely, because everything else is just profit for several years and years and years and years. So, Bobby, I believe that's what you're saying. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And the only thing that I would add to that, Junior, is to think about it like a baby. We call it a maturity date for a reason. Because when kids are born, they're like, for lack of better terms, useless. They're useless. They're little babies. They can't do anything. They can't even hold their own heads up. Like you have to hold their head literally, or they'll be like this, like absolutely can't do anything. However, if you give that baby 24 years to develop, to grow, to learn, to evolve, and become, it could very well be producing, depending on its upbringing, $1 million a year by 24. So you had to take care of the baby for like 18 years, and every year you took care of the investment, it got a little bit easier. So think about it like a baby. Like babies are a ton of work when they're infants. They're exhausting, but every year they become a bit more self-sufficient. And that's what a time horizon means really with your investment. It means like, do you have the wherewithal financially and mentally to hold on to the investment until maturity? If you can do that, and it is a good investment, the idea is that at the maturity of the investment, you'll no longer have to take care of it, and it'll create passive income. That's what most people invest for. They don't invest for cash. They invest. They don't invest for wages. So that's what a lot of people mess up on. Wages is what you get in exchange for labor. You get a wage, but income, passive income, is what you get in exchange for leveraged capital or financial capital at work. Wages is in exchange for time and energy, whereas passive income is in exchange for capital at work. And business owners, real estate investors, stock investors, all of us are doing the same thing. We're trying to build an asset either in the form of a stock portfolio, a real estate conglomerate, or a business that is self-sufficient and produces income without us exchanging energy and time, but instead us exchanging financial capital. So that's another distinction of like a way to think of it. Like kids, when they grow up and they become adults and they move out, they're supposed to continue being effective citizens, like good citizens, and add to the country's GDP, gross domestic product. So that's what a business is supposed to do too. That's what an investment is supposed to do. It's supposed to mature, and then once it matures, it's supposed to go out on its own and no longer require the investment, time, and energy of mommy and daddy, and it's supposed to continue making money for you. So that's just another way to think about it.
Yeah. Something else that I wrote down. I wrote down the entrepreneur. That's something that nobody really talks about, or something we haven't touched on rather. So the whole point of the investment is to help the entrepreneur. And I think Warren Buffett said it best. Warren Buffett said that, or something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing, but I believe he said something like, an investment is only risky if you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Investment is only risky if you don't know what you're doing. So why do I say the entrepreneur? I mean, like, two entrepreneurs can invest in the same thing. I think if you go like a coaching program, two people come into the same coaching program. One person gets the results faster than the other. Why is that? What's the variable? The variable is not the coaching program. The variable is the entrepreneur. So if you can become the person, okay, if you can become, what does it the Bible say? A good steward of money, right? If you can become a good steward of money, if you can become the person, then you get the results a lot faster than the other. So part of the investment, in fact, the biggest part of the investment is the entrepreneur. So think about how can you be the person that's ready to make that investment and ready to make it work to get the most value from the investment that you make. Because like Warren Buffett says, it's only risky if you, the entrepreneur, don't know what you're doing, or if you, the entrepreneur, don't maximize the investment. Nothing works if you don't work it. Like literally nothing works if you don't work it. Like, you have to work it for it to work. So I just wanted to put that out there, Bobby, to make sure that we bring the accountability piece, because like it doesn't matter how much money you have or how much money you are ready to invest. If you're not ready, then it normally doesn't work.
That's right. That's right. So with that entrepreneur piece, that's what I was really touching on when I was talking about branded like a leader, coaching like a leader, and closing like a leader. Because one of the biggest mistakes that I see entrepreneurs make is they don't know how to get to the revenue. They just don't know how to get to the revenue. So revenue comes from one thing, really two things, but one thing primarily comes from sales. But I said two things because sales come from marketing. So revenue comes from marketing and sales combined. But if no one closes the deal, if no one collects the cash, there is no revenue. So here's the story of many entrepreneurs' lives. Here's their story. They wake up one day with a bright idea. Bing, the light bulb goes off. They're looking around and they're looking around and they're like, man, I could do this too. And then they look at their bank accounts and they're like, okay, great, okay. And then they start following people. So they're looking at their bank account and like, I don't have the money that I want, or oh, I've got good money and I'm going to be okay. Let me go do something new. Like they just have this epiphany moment where they're feeling good about their situation. They're optimistic and they believe they can do better. So they've got the light bulb. This is how it starts. Then they start following people. As they start following people, they start telling themselves things like, I can do that. That doesn't look that hard. I can do that. It's not that bad. I can do that. And then before they know it, they find themselves clicking on something, downloading something, getting a series of emails, a series of phone calls, and before they know it, they're on the phone with somebody. And while they're on the phone with somebody, this person is telling them everything that they want to hear, And they're like, oh, yeah, this sounds so good. Oh, man, you really got me going. Oh, man. And before they know it, they're taking out the card. Bing, and they swipe. And nothing wrong with this. But the problem with this is that this person just spent money on something and have no idea what they just bought. This is how it happens. This is how this normally goes. Because they really don't know what they're doing. All they know is that they want to make money. Entrepreneurs, real entrepreneurs, bona fide entrepreneurs that know what they're doing. Like an entrepreneur is someone that moves resources, economic resources, and this is the technical definition of an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is someone that moves economic resources from one place in the economy to a more profitable place in the economy. That's what we do. We move resources. We reallocate resources to more profitable uses. That's what entrepreneurs do by solving problems at a profit, period. Most people are just trying to make more money. So what they're really doing is they're looking for a money hack. And when they try to shortcut this thing, they're not really moving economic resources. They're not really doing what entrepreneurs really do. And because they're not doing what entrepreneurs really do, they don't get the results that entrepreneurs get. So back to what happens to them. So once they buy this course or they buy that course or they get into this coaching program or that program, they're now just paying money. And they're not really moving economic resources. They're just paying and learning. That's really all they're doing. They're paying and learning. But that's not what entrepreneurs do. Entrepreneurs oftentimes already know what it is that we're trying to do. We have business plans. We have business models. We have engineered an outcome before we ever touch a dollar. We're not just jumping into stuff randomly. It's not what we do. So what normally happens is they don't know what they're trying to do. They're trying to figure it out in real time on the fly, and they find themselves spending money, learning things, but not moving any economic resources from one place to the next place. So then the second thing that happens is they've spent a lot of money. They've started to run out of money, and now they're trying to borrow money to keep up with a commitment. Not an investment. An investment and a commitment are two different things. A commitment is when you are a good person, you're an honest person, and a salesperson sold you something, and as a person of your word, you're doing your very best to keep your commitment. An investment, on the other hand, is when you know exactly what you're trying to do. You've already thought through the various situations. You've encountered the risk. You've evaluated the money that you're going to borrow, the interest that you're going to encounter, and the amount of time that you expect it to take you. And you're executing along a timetable, understanding the full risk and ramifications of being wrong. Once you've done all of that, now you have an investment, and you're fully aware that it could go bust, and you're okay with that. Most people are not okay with that. They don't understand that, and they're just trying to keep up with a commitment. So they borrow money. And as they're borrowing money, they're still learning, but they're still not executing. And because they're still not executing on the right things, moving economic resources to the right place, here's what never happens. Sales. And sales does not happen because sales is a combination of a lot of things. It is the combination of marketing. It's the combination of branding. It is the combination of an irresistible offer. It is a combination of product delivery and distribution. It is a combination of confidence in your ability to deliver. It is a combination of relationship management. And if you don't do all of these things, that's the resource allocation piece. That's the resource allocation piece that has to take place. And if those things don't take place in the midst of you learning all the different things, so you have a learning curve, and then you have a financial obligation such as operational expenses, and then you have revenue targets. You have to do all of those things in order for this thing to work. And most people focus on one of those things, which is the learning curve. They understand that they don't know what they don't know, and they just learn. But they do not execute on the market development, brand positioning, offer of what they actually offer, the product itself, and the delivery of that product, the refinement of that product, the building of their customer base, the ascension of the customers that they have. Like, if you don't do any of those things, you're not going to sell. And if you don't sell, you fail. And that's why 99% of businesses just don't make it. What are your thoughts on this, Gina? Thoughts, insights?
I think the idea of not putting resources in the right place is definitely right. Because, and it's so funny, I was looking at a video this morning, and it was a mastermind with entrepreneurs, and they were literally talking about the same thing, where the average entrepreneur complicates stuff. So they make stuff complicated, but at the same time, they ignore the simple stuff, like actually finding out what a problem is, like what actually causes a problem, and then what can you do to fix it. So I think not putting the resources towards solving problems, I would say, is the number one challenge that most entrepreneurs face. Now, Bobby, we have to be fair to entrepreneurs as well, and we also have to say that, you know, a lot of people have invested a lot of money. I've spoken to a lot of people that have invested a lot of money in their business, and they've not gotten a return. Some of them because they've invested in the wrong programs, or not necessarily the program was wrong. I think the format of the program was wrong. Like I was telling someone the other day, we're no longer in the information age. That's over. Like, you can find literally everything online. You find everything about branding, everything about economics, everything about, you know, speaking, coaching, etc., etc. It's all out there. I think the future will be not just education, but a combination of education and implementation to assist entrepreneurs on their journey. So those are sort of my thoughts on that. But to make it very simple, guys, find out where your next constraint in the business is and just put money towards that. I think that's what Bobby's saying. If your constraint is sales, don't go putting your money into all kinds of fancy stuff that have nothing to do with sales. If your constraint is leads, figure out how to put resources towards leads. Resources include your time, your effort, and also your money. Now, Bobby, we're gonna go to a very, very quick break, guys. Our final break. Look at that, the time has flown by so fast. So we're gonna go to our final break. We'll be right back in 1 minute. Stay tuned.
There's slow growth, and then there's scale. There's incremental growth, and then there's exponential growth. What I want to talk to you about is adding a zero to you and experiencing exponential scale. Incremental growth says 1 + 1 is 2. Exponential growth says 1 + 0 is 10. Incremental growth says 2 + 2 is 4. Exponential growth says 5 + 0 is 50. Guys, listen, when you add a zero to you, you can add a zero to the marketplace. You can add a zero to the value that you bring. So you can add a zero to your family, add a zero to your legacy. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about incremental, we're talking about exponential. I always say that business is a spiritual game. Just imagine when you combine your skills, your values, your abilities, your talents to something bigger than you, something greater than you, something like the power of exponential. That is adding a zero. Add a zero to your competence, add a zero to your confidence. This is about adding a zero in your life, your value, your industry, and your mission. Let's grow. So when you're young, mommy tells you to play nice. Play nice, Timmy. Let all of the other kids play too. But in business, it's not about playing nice. In business, it's about winning. It's about adding multiple zeros to your revenue. Now, of course, your staff wins. And when you win, other people win. However, when it comes to competition, you absolutely must dominate. You can't play for participation, and you can't play just to get along or just to get by, because business is serious. Business will help you to change the world, or the world will change you. Your people will either win or your people will lose based on your level of leadership, what you're willing to do, what you're willing to sacrifice, and how much you know about dominating.
All right, guys. So we're back, Bobby. We're into like the last 5 minutes of the show. So, what is something else that you'd like to share with the average entrepreneur? Like, how can people get started? Couple questions people always ask me. They ask me about funding. So, like, how can I get funding for stuff? So, let's maybe talk about that. What can the average entrepreneur do to get funding today? And that is just, towards business development, stuff like websites. Maybe they need to invest in sales teams, programs, um, you know, the basics. What can they do to get started?
Two answers that they're not going to want to hear, and then one answer that they may want to hear. So the answer that you don't want to hear maybe is get another job, and pay for it. Another answer you might not want to hear is liquidate your savings accounts. Most people have money, they just don't want to use it. Like, empty your accounts, you have it, use it. But the answer that they want to hear is you can apply for grants. But the reason I laugh is because they're very competitive and they're oftentimes slow. And if you need money now, a grant is probably not going to be the best thing for you. Like the two that I shared with you are the most liquid. Like, you can get money within 2 weeks if you get a job and they're paying you every 2 weeks, or if you just sign up for delivering pizzas or something like that, just get a delivery job, work tips. Like, you could start making money in 3 days. Like, there's really a lot of ways you can make money if you just get a job. And if you liquidate your savings accounts, then you can obviously lose security. But if you are confident in what you're investing in, much like Junior said, it's not a risky investment, especially if you're confident in the time horizon of when that money should be coming back to you. But another one that a lot of people like to hear is and here's the thing: people that need money don't need money. Like, if you need money, that means you've been irresponsible with money. And I'm just being, straight with you. Like, if you don't have the ability to go get credit, it's because you haven't paid your bills on time. And nobody should give you money. Like, if your credit score is bad, it's for a reason. If you don't have cash in your accounts, but you've been working for the past 30 years, it's probably a reason. It's because you haven't been saving money. So why would someone give you money to go build a business when you have proven that you're not responsible with money in the first place? So really, the answer to people that ask that question is get a job. That's the best thing you can do, because borrowing money is going to be more of a hurdle or more of a burden for you than it normally would be to assist you. And if you were to get a grant, the nature of your spending is likely going to misuse that grant money than it is going to actually help you. And that's statistically speaking from what I've seen as a CFO.
All right. Guys, so we've arrived at the end of the show. Put it in the chat. What has been your main takeaway? Tomorrow morning, we'll be back. So we'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time. Look out for the links. Thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing. Thank you, Bobby. We might do a finance call again. Put it in the chat if you want to. If you want us to talk more about finance. We only spoke, very very surface level today. So let us know if this is a subject that you'd like to see us talk about. Just leave it in the comments. Again, thank you so much. Have a phenomenal, phenomenal Friday. See you tomorrow, and let's grow.
Let's grow.